Hey, I hope you're doing well. It's been a little bit since we last talked. But for the last couple of years, I've done this year in review sort of video at the end of the year, recapping games I played, moments that really stood out to me, how things have just evolved in my own life, and it's been, a great way to, candidly talk through things. And this year, there's been I think a few challenges to get to that point. First of all, I don't know if you can see my eye is super puffy. I just had eyelid surgery yesterday, so eyelid's still recovering a little bit from that. Yeah, I got to the start of this year. Towards the end of December, I was starting to wonder, thinking about this video, if I really wanted to make it this year. The end of last year, there was a lot of challenges that came up that I wasn't really anticipating, including multiple admittances to the hospital. My brand new wheelchair is sitting right here. I spent quite a while in a nursing home, and I just had eyelid surgery. My new CPAP machine is right there, and so there was just a lot to try to keep track of and process, as really the whole world seemed to flip over a little bit at the end of the year. And then I was thinking about it the other day, and in a lot of ways, communication is the biggest asset we have as people. So even as there's a lot going on, and of course adult life is unstable and takes a lot of work and anticipation and patience to get through. It's good to sit down and talk about things, and there's a few things that I'd like to talk about. So this video, unlike my previous years in review, is entirely unscripted. So be patient with me as I may stumble over words, completely shift subjects, do weird things with my hands, because I'm a hand talker. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about this last year. Particularly, let's talk about change. It's something that at any point in any of our lives we go through a lot of. And even though I always knew that was true, this last year really reinforced that and allowed me to explore what change really means in a different way. And of course, there's a lot of big changes that were built into this year, right? I moved states. I graduated college. I was taking the steps and still am within, this early phase of my career. And so of course there's a lot of change that we sort of naturally were expecting this year. The sort of change that really creates a craving for some form of stability. But I mean, to put in perspective, I thought about this the other day when the Nintendo Switch 2 was revealed. I just started my freshman year of high school when the Switch was announced. All those NX rumors, I was in middle school. And so now I watched that Switch 2 unveiling, and I had this moment of, I'm out of college now, right? I was a freshman in high school, now I'm out of college. It's been a while. It's been, a lot of change, and you can't help but sort of look back and go, man, it is a little trippy. The entire world looks different now, both in, a micro and macro way. Our shared external world is very different, and my internal world is very different, right? Yeah. This year, when I was leading up to graduating college, and of course throughout college, especially right after COVID, I was studying game design, and we could see a bit of a concerning trajectory for career opportunities. And that isn't to say there weren't any there. There absolutely are. But it's difficult, and it's clear to say a lot of people and companies who are in that industry are struggling, and we've seen that for the last several years of my degree. And so as I was reaching the end of my last few months of college, I was really starting to get alarmed at what the future was going to look like. And it started to get a little scarier as it went on, especially because I did not, have a game design internship or something at some point. I didn't really have much connection to companies. I had done some work in like research and like academia, but I really did not do much outside of my schoolwork within the literal game development. I talked about it a lot, and so I was sitting there trying to see what my world was going to look like, and I had applied to a master's program, and like, if I have done some work in academia, maybe that's the trajectory I can take. It's not to say I would prefer to do academia to game development. Not to say the two are necessarily inseparable. I just felt like if one path was opening and another path wasn't, I was going to jump into the path that was opening and be just as happy as if the other path had opened for me. Either way, I knew that I was going to be able to do something I really loved, do something I cared about, and figure something out, right? So I applied to a funded master's program with a friend of mine, and I had gotten accepted and then waitlisted for funding, and I was at a point where if I didn't get funding, I was not going to be able to do that. And so at that point, it was taking a while to really see where that was going to go. And so up here, I was graduating college, and I started what some would say is the I did everything wrong and somehow it still worked out effect. I decided, all right, I can't afford to sit around and wait for my answer about the master's program. I need to figure out what my life is. And I was struggling to see, what jobs would I have? What would I be able to do? And I had, I think, a moment of introspection that there's a lot of people who have no idea what the future is going to look like, what they're going to do, where their source of income might come from. And for a lot of people, there's, a way to figure it out. And so I said, I'm going to figure it out. And so I signed a lease on a house with some friends, and didn't have a job. I had no job guarantee, come graduation, and just about a month or so at that point. I'm like, I'm gonna figure it out, Not everyone gets the job they want. I can't, bring the world to a halt. Of course, systematically, maybe there's things we can do to make that moment better, but I really wanted to figure it out. And so I graduated college with no job opportunities. And outside of, a wonderful opportunity for 3 weeks with Girls Make Games, which aside is a really incredible program that I highly encourage you to check out. In fact, I'll put a link to it in the description of this video. It's an outreach program for girls who are interested in game development, especially when we consider how homogenized the industry has been in the past. And, you know, some of those like shortcomings in really providing equity and opportunity without, you know, putting this like veil of responsibility, you know, on girls who just want to make games, you know. And so that's a really great way to bring young girls into this sort of world in a way that they don't feel like they have to climb up a mountain just to be seen or heard at all. It really just, you know, provides that space to freely create, and that's genuinely incredible. And I was super excited at that point to work with them, and having now worked with them, I was very glad to have been able to do so. But, you know, outside of 3 weeks, wasn't, you know, much else going on at the moment. And, you know, I felt very lucky, you know. I met somebody during my last graphic design critique, which I didn't even think was, quite frankly, very good, but, you know, we got talking, and, you know, through that, I was offered, you know, a position writing for this project, and that's been super cool. And it's sort of serendipitous that I was sitting there like, I'm gonna make it work. Then I'm like really looking, I'm like, how am I gonna make this work? I don't know what's gonna, you know, happen. And so, you know, taking opportunity, you know, taking each step as it comes, and, you know, some pieces, you know, felt like they started to actually maybe fall into place a little bit more. Real quick, I just realized I never said the name of the project that I was working on. I just mentioned meeting the person that brought me onto the project, but I'm writing for this thing called With Love. It's about pen paling with digital characters who will connect with you and write you on a personal level. It's super cool. It's a lot of fun. We're doing some awesome stuff right now. A link for that is also in the description, but that's the thing I'm doing, which is totally awesome, and please check it out. But I was also doing the bulk of my work at a High Ropes course, which, you know, lovely people there, but I really was like eager, like I want to jump in, I want to like keep going forward. And I got an email asking me if I wanted to teach at a college. And I said, yeah, sure. And, you know, I started jumping into doing that as well. And really, piece by piece, it was really cool seeing those things fall into place. And sometimes I wonder, like, a lot of that's chance, you know? A lot of anything is chance. And so I'm like, I feel sometimes like I got lucky. But the thing is, when it comes to chance and finding a path forward that you really weren't anticipating or expecting, or frankly even like likely to stumble into, the thing is, you know, you don't have to prove it, right? Like, as it happens, you know? And even if you feel like, oh, that shouldn't have worked out, matter is, it did, you know? And you keep going forward. Sometimes, like, I wonder, like, what if I had gotten, you know, what if things hadn't just worked out? And I keep telling myself, well, they did, you know? But even then, you know, there's a lot of jumping around from doing various different things. Again, you know, signing a lease before getting a house is maybe not the best idea. But as it goes, each step comes and things work out. And I'm optimistic that things will continue working out in, you know, various different ways. But, you know, sometimes you sit here going through all that change, friends that graduated college and ended up in different sides of the planet. Well, more so different sides of the country. I don't think I know anyone who moved out of the country, but the point is, like, life starts to look a lot different, and even when things work out, there is an emotional weight to it, and it's not always easy to just accept things as they are when you know that things are going to change. And so really the first few months post-graduation, even as things were falling into place, it really didn't feel like it. And it felt very busy and rushed, to the point where the entirety of college felt like something super distant. Even a couple months after college, it really felt like it had been years, just because it felt like every life change was packed into just an itty bitty moment with like a bow on top, but like one of those bows that like kind of yoink it and it doesn't quite, unfurl all the way. Like sort of like when you get like a shoelace and you start pulling the edges, but somehow it gets like caught and tangled, and you really end up with like knot. That's the sort of bow. You start pulling it, you feel like things might, come apart seamlessly. You open up, you see what comes next, but then like it snags, and now you're like, all right, you're clawing here, you're looking for like the scissors, you're trying to cut it open. But eventually, when you get inside, you catch a deep breath because there's another box, right there. And as you keep working, as you keep digging to things working out, you look back, months have passed and you're doing all right. You might not be at the very center of that teeny tiny little box, but in the time it took you to get to where you are, things have worked out. Maybe that's an analogy that doesn't make much sense, but like I said, this is unscripted, so you can't call me a bad writer. Yeah, man, it feels weird sometimes to be in this space I'm in, and there's still a lot of uncertainty, and you sort of have to sit there and work hard and hope that paths forward continue to manifest, and holding that sort of firm belief that they will. But you look back and it's like, I graduated college in May of 2024. Now, in January of 2025, I'm in a wheelchair, can't walk super well. I have all sorts of medical equipment. My entire room feels like medical equipment right now, I have jobs, I'm doing things and finding paths forward. But then you notice the most important change of all, that my hair is red now. And that's really the big change that I think we can take from the last few months. Is my hair was blonde and long, and now it's red and long based on your definition, and depending on the context. Yeah. It's also, sometimes when there's a lot of change, it's the small moments of stability that really feel nice. You see me fidgeting with this little bracelet I have on. It was, I think, right before, like a day before my sophomore year of college. I went to the arcade with some friends, and with our points at the end, we chose out these little cheap bracelets, and started wearing them. And I wore mine literally like up until right before my senior year of college, and it really started falling apart just too much, you know. And I got like a little distressed because like this thing that's been like so stable, like even it's so small, it's so meaningless, but like seeing that go into threads, I'm like, oh gosh. So I bought some. This is my second one, and it's starting to, it's still in decent condition, but some of the threads are really starting to wear a bit. I'd never take this off, and now that I have a million of them, you know, maybe that's one of those like small things that just reminds you, hey, even when the world is, you know, very different than what it just was, you know, some things you can hold on to. Change is overwhelming, but life adds, it doesn't replace. So as that change comes, it's a change sometimes in bringing more things in, not losing the things you had. And I think that that's, you know, a great, you know, sort of representation of friendships too. You know, one of the things that was really, you know, daunting at the end of college was some of my very closest friends were moving to different parts, you know, of the country, and it's just like, how is that relationship gonna like look like? Especially like, oh gosh, when something's not like physically in front of me, it's, you know, I have a very bad sense of object permanence, but as it relates to people, I have a bad sense of people permanence. It's like, second, like the way to connect is a text message. I really do struggle in that. I struggle in that a lot, you know, and I've stopped talking to people that, you know, maybe I wish I had kept up with, but man, it can be tough sometimes. And so that's where it's like, life adds, it doesn't replace, you know. You might end up in a different space, you might end up in a different part, you know, of the world. Your world might be different, but that doesn't mean that the world that you were in is gone. You know, it just means there's a new way to connect with that, and you know, you have a new space to connect with too. You've added more things to your life. You haven't gotten rid of those things that really matter. And I think that there's, you know, a lot of beauty in that, you know, a lot of relief and peace to be found in that. That, yeah, even as the world changes, it's okay. It's okay. You know, you're okay. It's gonna be all right. Yeah. Speaking of things that don't change, I have not finished Xenoblade 3 yet. Oh man. I think that came out my sophomore year of college. And man, I don't know why it's taken me so long, but I'm still like, I at this point it's like, I'm not taking another cartridge out of my Switch until I finish Xenoblade 3. That's the only cartridge that's going in right now, and at this point it's been in for a few months. maybe a little less than that, but man. And now the Switch 2 is coming out. That's crazy. What other games did I play this year? Well, I was, last year I was releasing A Chirp in Space, and so I played a lot of A Chirp in Space. And actually, right now on my computer, I'm doing a little rendering in A Chirp in Space for a new opening cinematic because I'm making an update. Some things don't change. I still work on A Chirp in Space. Well, it's pretty recently. It's the last 3 days I've overhauled the game, and I've been just obsessed with it. I've been re-enamored. It feels exactly many months ago now when I was wrapping up the game the first time, and I was working on it every day. I was obsessed, and I was so happy with exactly how it had all come together. And a lot of people, especially because it's a student game, and a lot of people had asked me, Now, what would you change? What would you add, or what would you do different if you had more time? And at the time, my answer was nothing. I scoped it out for that amount of time. And so at the end, I had finished where my timeline had me at, and that was the exact thing that I had been aiming to make. And so at the time, and it really was true, and I don't take it back, I don't regret saying it, but really, the game was exactly what I had intended it to be, and I was happy with that. But then, to go forward, and as I started doing new things, starting exploring, aspects of design more, and doing a lot more writing, a lot more narrative stuff, and looking back, seeing how people responded to the game, you sit there and it's now there are things that, I would change based on some of that new experience or insight I've gained. I can look at it, after I've taken a few steps and see it in a different light, and there were some things that I didn't like about it anymore. And so being able to jump back in and polish up those things, I'm oh man, it's within 5 hours, the game was drastically better. And that's just, you can't always get it exactly right, all in one go. Sometimes you just have to stop, look back, and go, all right, now I know what the path forward is for this. But man, that's been a lot of fun to go back to. It's been a good time, and I'm excited, to release that so this new version can be played. What other games? Did I really spend a ton of time in some other games? I played a little bit, I think, of Horizon Zero Dawn. I like that. At this point, I'm between I've been playing Breath of the Wild, and I've been playing Horizon, and I've been playing Xenoblade. At some point, I just want a game that I can pick up and just finish. Those games thrive on spending a lot of time in them, and it's that's the way that they're designed and meant to be played, is by playing them for a while, and spending a real chunk of time in that. And it's sometimes I just want one of these games that's designed to just be a couple hours, maybe a Kirby in the Forgotten Land. I still need to play that. Oh my gosh, Astrobot looks incredible. I would love to play Astrobot, or something that's built in that intentionally linear way. That sounds really nice right now. I haven't played a lot of that, but that sounds really appealing. After I finish Xenoblade 3, I might just quickly run through Kirby and the Forgotten Land. That sounds really nice. I like that idea. Man, what a crazy world we live in. It's nice to sit back and just talk for a minute. How are you doing? I mean it. How are you doing? I hope wherever you are, whoever is watching this, can't imagine too many people would want to watch a 28-minute and 20-second video. Well, it's going to be longer than that now, but how are you? I hope you're doing all right. I hope the start of this year has been treating you well. I hope you're treating yourself well. And really, yeah, I hope you're doing good. The world can be an intimidating place, but we get to be intimidated together. And I think that's pretty special. So it's nice to just take a moment, take a breather, stop worrying about every exact word, and just, yeah. I hope you're doing well. And I hope that you're playing games that are a lot of fun. And I hope that however unstable your world might feel, I hope that each step comes as it comes, and that you do all right. Yeah. Ever since I stopped doing monthly videos, I don't know where I was going with that. I stopped doing monthly videos for all of last year. And then I released that one video essay at the end, the press A to be happy. And man, I had so much fun doing that. Like, that really got me like energized. And I realized taking the time to not do everything all at once, you know, not trying to do video after video in such quick succession, like, it's nice to just be able to create what you want and not create what you need to. Yeah, and I really liked that video. That was a lot of fun. Yeah. I wonder if I'll make any this year. I don't know, it's been busy. But if the right topic comes up, if the right words come up, you know, I'm glad to be able to keep doing that, have the space too. But I guess 30 minutes in of this ramble with no overlays, with no subway surfers off in the side to distract you. Maybe we should cut it there at 30 minutes, but I hope you have a good rest of your day. It sounds really ominous, right? To be like, I hope you have a good rest of your life. Like, you know, I promise you there's nobody like knocking at like your back door. Well, I can't promise that. I don't, you know, not for me. You know, I hope that you have a long and, you know, satisfying and peaceful rest of your life. Okay, we're cutting.